Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Cross, a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I am not well versed in Alex Cross series. I think I've only read one book, and that was like over a decade ago. I'm pretty sure I read Double Cross. Can't tell you anything about it. Like I said, it's been so long ago. I only read it once, and I think I've seen the movie Along Came a Spider like once, and even that was a very long time ago. So I'm not well versed in Alex Cross enough to the point that when the opening happened, I was like, oh, because I know like a big part of this, I heard someone talk about like someone who was a big fan of the Alex Cross series. It's like something that the movies or adaptations never really get right is him spending time with his family because that's a big part of it. I did not realize his wife died. Like I read the book so long ago, I watched the movie so long ago, I didn't remember that. So but yeah, like that's heartbreaking. Like, you know, you see that they're both so in love and then she dies, and for a year he was still never able to solve her murder. I figured those flowers had to have something to do with it, because his coworkers are thinking like, oh yeah, like you got a secret admirer, but it's like, well, to some extent maybe. But yeah, like I had a feeling like, oh, it's got to be about the killer, and it's just Alex hasn't put it together yet that that's what that's about. Because he even says, like, it is kind of creepy, no name or something, and just like, it's a little weird. But yeah. First case we get in the beginning of this series, though, like, it's like, right, they picked a really evil person. The moment he was like, oh yeah, she, kind of like was just saying like some vile, horrendous stuff when he was kind of talking about the whole like, oh yeah, it was kind of a late term abortion. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude. And he's like, yeah, I didn't do it. I'm just I'm perfectly fine with the fact is, and not hurt by the fact is my wife got murdered or whatever. But yeah, he was like, oh, she basically had the spawn of like an abomination. So it was an abomination of like humanity or something. And I was like, is he talking because she had a baby with like someone that wasn't white? And that's a conversation where I was like, oh yeah, he's on that time. He's on that path. He pisses that one detective off, Akbar, because he fell right into his trap when the guy was like running his mouth saying all kinds of racist stuff. But Alex picked up on something outside. He wasn't even directly in the room while they were listening. He was in the office, like about to sign some paperwork to take a leave of absence. But then he goes in and he's like, yo, let me take a crack at him. Yo. And just like, because like Aldous Hodge has this like, maybe it's a little him, maybe it's just like, nah, this is just how the character is in the books. But it's like, he's a smooth motherfucker. Like, he just like the way he carries himself, and he like Aldous Hodge has a lot of charisma, so it's just like it shines through with just like the swag he's got when he's just like, hey, it's cut because the guy was trying to make a thing about like, oh, like it's just genetics, how like I'm from, my people are superior. He was like, he's like, oh yeah, like so that must mean, as you know, like I have a bigger penis. And then his boss Messi was like, what did he just say on recordings? And it's like, yeah, and he's literally got his junk, because I was like, the camera angle and everything, I was like, hey yo, do we need it? Oh, it's because it's all the play into the point that he's like, no, I have a bigger penis than you, right? But it's like, see what's happening? Free chicken, which the guy obviously was going to take that and run with it, with the racist connotation. But yeah, he was like, oh yeah, see, I'm living rent free in your head. Free chicken. It's kind of a thing of, you don't even realize you gave something up without even realizing. It's like, I didn't even have to, when you get results for something, you didn't even have to work for it. It's like, I heard you. So he's basically like, what was it? Basically the guy quotes something from Macbeth, and he's like, usually it's a line that comes about as like kind of some psychological like admission of guilt, where it's like, yeah, something's you've been feeling guilty about, and it's like, just that one slip up made it go like, okay, so we are barking up the right tree. So, because Alex is has a PhD in psychology. I love that whole thing of like, see, you think you're smarter. Oh, you think you're smarter than Detective Akbar. You think you're smarter than me. And he was like, and he kind of pointed all that stuff out. And he was like, see, any nigga with a PhD would be able to see that. I was like, oh God. And he just kind of, he was like, oh, do you want protective custody? He's like, actually, do you want to talk about, do you want PC? Do you want protective custody? So that got immediately wrapped up. But at the heart of this story, and it seems to be the heart of this season, the overarching story. Not only is Alex going to be investigating his wife's murder, I doubt that's going to get resolved in one season. I know the overarching, we'll see, but I'm assuming it's going to be because I avoided this season on, and I've avoided the trailers. I think I saw the teaser, that was it. But that the Amir situation, because when we meet the killer, like, he's obsessed with serial killers. We see he has like one on, was it Eileen Warner? The story. I'm aware of the movie. I'm not well versed in the story. I think I know bits and pieces of like the real story, but like I'm aware of like the movie adaptation where she was played by Charlize Theron. But her, John Wayne Gacy, I was like, oh, this guy's got a what would it be, like a scrapbook of murderers. And then I was like, okay, so that seems to be what his weird obsession is. Basically, he kills people and makes them replicate like the serial killers that die, because like Amir was meant to be reflective of some killer. I can't remember who it was the Sandman. It's like he's supposed to be like a representation of that. So he like cut off his dreads and kind of shaved his head, buzzed it down, clean shaved him up. Even his final meal was supposed to be the final meal that the Sandman had. So it's like he's recreating like serial killer. He's just serial killers that kills innocent people to recreate serial killers' final moments or something. Or just like it's some, I don't know what the psychology behind that is. But his need to do that is what, because I guess the reason why, because Amir died of like meth in his veins, and I'm assuming it's supposed to be like, because I actually don't know what the chemical they do for you with the lethal injection, so that's why I'm curious of, is he going to try and recreate the means in which they died? So maybe like the real Sandman died from like a lethal injection, so well, he got access to meth and did it, but, or maybe it's something, maybe the compound they use for lethal injections just uses a lot of same components as meth or something. I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable in that capacity, but I thought that's such an interesting, like, you know, it sounds sick to say, but like in a sick way and like disgusting, but like it is such an interesting psychopathy, I guess, for a killer, that like that's what you're trying to do. Like you're like, I mean, there are those killers that sadly believe themselves to be some kind of artist, and that's what he's doing. But because he I'm sure it helps him that he's able to disguise it also as a suicide by being like, oh yeah, like he just overdosed. Now this ends up turning into a big problem because Amir was someone of note. He was an activist. He was a big proponent of defund the police and that in the movement. And so his death sparked a lot. And now there's a lot of pressure on the police, specifically Chief Anderson is kind of just being like, once her hands done with it, it's like, hey, let's just rule this suicide and be gone. But Alex is like, nah, I don't think we have to really do that. Like, maybe we should look into it, because it's like, right, if this was a murder, do you want to believe like them that the police did it? Which even Alex is like, we can't rule out the possibility. But she wants this, the optics do not look good, and this whole situation could implode. So it's like, right, we're not doing that. But Alex, it's like, she's like, right, just investigate it, talk to the family, whatever. Let Vega and them, like, you know, catch you up on the case and stuff. But yeah, she actually wanted Alex at the press conference. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. He's like, I'll look into the case. I'll work the case for you, but I'm not going to be like, oh, oh, like, we got a blackish shoe, let's tote out the token black guys. Like, I'm not going to do that, you know? She's like, fine, just stand back there and look pretty. And then his partner John putting in and black, and it's like, yeah. I saw the name Isaiah Mustafa, and I was like, isn't that who I think it is? Like, I know, like, one of the things I know him from is like some of the Old Spice commercials. But I was like, I saw that name and I kept looking at it. I was like, I think that's what I know him for. It's just like his hair usually is like shorter. But either way, I'm tangent all that aside. It ends up, obviously, Alex is in this complicated position because he is a cop of notoriety because of a specific case. And I'm curious if, like, was it Gary Sinigi case or something like that? I'm wondering to anyone that's familiar with the books, it's like, oh my god, that case has already happened in this continuity. Because I'm curious if this is based on any specific books. I'd assume we're adapting the books. But like, I'm wondering if like the Gary case they reference in particular is like a very specific book or a part of a book or something like that. Or maybe that's something that's talked about in a book, but maybe like an entire book or even a section of book isn't dedicated to it. But maybe it's just one of those cases he's done like in the continuity that never get. I'm just curious about something like that because they do bring it up multiple times because apparently it's the case that kind of put Alex on the map for a lot of people, and so yeah, that ends up being this. And it's kind of gained him a lot of notoriety, which he doesn't care for the notoriety, but he has kind of become like the face of the police because of that. And it's like, don't, I think he can recognize a lot of the issues, but it also puts him in a very compromising position of, who are you as a black male, and the black community. Not just the black community, but a lot of minorities in general feel that like can have a very typically a negative connotation when it comes to police. And now it's like, balancing that with like being a black male in the cops, because like he recognizes the issues with the police, but he still believes like the good that can come from police because him and John have been police for a while. And it's like, yes, I do believe because he doesn't write off the entire institution as bad. But I mean, obviously there's systemic issues that run deep too. So it's not so black and white, especially for him, which causes complications because for a lot of people, it is very black and white. Understandably, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of anger on that situation. Once again, justifiable and understandable anger. So it kind of puts you in this complicated crosshair because to anyone from the outside, it's like, okay, despite him knowing Amir, because apparently like Alex was in court talking, and like when Amir was kind of going through some legal trouble because he did go to prison, Alex did speak on his behalf because he saw the good person that Amir was. So it becomes that situation of, but you're still viewed as like, once again, the token black guy the cops have working this, because they even called it like I forgot what Amir's sister called them, but it was kind of like, brought out, because it wasn't just Alex, it's also John too, which Alex did bring up. It's like, nah, if you want someone else to talk, like there's plenty of other black people in this department you could go to for that. But either way, obviously they're doing their due diligence and they're like, right, running through everything. It's like, does anyone else have beef with Amir? Could it really have been like drug? But it's like, no, he has type 2 diabetes, drugs. He knows what drugs would not mix well with his medication. Plus it's meth. And it's like, he smoked weed here and there, but like he would never do something like that. And that conversation Alex had with Amir's mom was so heartbreaking when she's just kind of talking about like the turkey bacon, and it's like, because he came out of prison, no pork, and it's just like, she's like, now they tell that joke about like, yeah, I chose him between him. I told him, if it's between you and turkey bacon, you're gonna have to leave. I mean, you and bacon, you're gonna have to leave. And she's like, now I've got a fridge of turkey bacon, and it's just like her breaking down because Alex tries to be there. It's like, right, I have 2 children. She's like, I hope you never have to go through this. He's like, I lost my wife. He's like, I'm not gonna pretend like it's the exact same thing, but I'd like to believe it's close enough. And for her, it's like, yes, it's that thing of, it's the small things, his toothbrush still in the bathroom plus the turkey bacon. It's just like, that's a lot, and Alex hugging her and like consoling her, promising that he'll see this through. So ultimately they do end up finding out from the autopsy he had a whole bunch of stuff. And the moment, it took me a second when they were listing off the stuff in his system, and then Alex cocked his head and I was like, right, pork chop was in his, right, no pork. So I was like, that's interesting. Alex even presents this to, well, he brought it to Messi, but Messi had Alex and John sit down with Chief Anderson, but she was so quick to be like, no, there's only 2 options. It's suicide or accidental. There is no like murder in this, because it's like, because I think for her, it's like leaving it open to make it a homicide still leaves it open to say like, hey, allows people to put the theory out there that a cop did it. So that's where it kind of that's where Anderson's all about, she is just about the optics of it all. So that's why she doesn't even want to present that as an option, because it's like, you give people leeway and credence to potentially cops being suspect for being responsible for killing Amir. So that ends up being that angle to it. I had a feeling that it was going to be Ryan Eggold, who's playing that guy Ed that Alex got introduced to. I was like, I kind of got this inkling and this feeling. Seems like he's going to be one of our, overarching antagonists, obviously this season. But it's like, yeah, that's always that interesting thing of like, I'm always curious how people feel about that with crime dramas when you know the killer from the beginning. You might not always understand their motives. You kind of don't really. Just to understand the character, like what his reasoning behind it. Not like you need it. He's a psychopath. That's all there really is to it. But I think especially when you have a character like Alex, who is, a psychologist, it kind of makes sense that you probably want to try and understand like why you have that psychopathy and what you're trying to get out of all of this. But yeah, my point before when I was bringing that up was knowing the killer ahead of time. That's always an interesting thing, and it's always about understanding why. That's why I really like the show The Sinner. Am I remember that show's name right? Yeah, with Bill Pullman. Like how like that show, it's like you know who the killer is typically, and it's all about understanding why they did what they did. Just that whole thing of like you at the beginning of the series know what the main protagonist doesn't know, and I guess it's just it's just that other angle of tackling a crime drama of like, okay, you know who the killer is. Now it's about trying to see how your main protagonist gets close and what clues they pick up and how the killer might maneuver around them type of thing, versus like not even knowing that even you at the last second are still second guessing who the killer could be. Obviously we have two killers in this case because we have Ed and we have Bobby. I did not see the Bobby situation coming. That was really, really interesting because we actually see, it's interestingly enough because the whole thing is like, right, police might have something behind Amir's death. Bobby is a former police. He does have a connection with the police. Like, I don't know if it was specifically Metro that he was like, I don't know if like the homicide division, because he went to Chris to run like the plates because he's like, my client and his client is Ed. But there's this whole situation where Bobby like just seems like a regular dude, and then he runs like the license plate, and it turns out Tavio, and you're like, how is this all going to connect? Because he just talked to Chris. He didn't talk to like Alex or anything. So I wonder like there might be a connection between Alex and John. Like maybe everyone in that apartment really knows Bobby. I don't know. But like I said, it adds validity to like technically a cop is behind this. He's not the one who killed Amir. He is the one who killed Tavio. But they seem to be a package deal. I don't know what, because I guess they label him as like a civilian, so I don't know if he's like, I guess technically in the private sector, but it's like, it is kind of effed up because your community, you are a black man like blowing up your own community. You are an insider in a lot of ways. Like, other than the money, like, what are you getting out of it? It's like, he's just probably a hired gun of like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't care. Like, who knows what his police career was like. Maybe there's skeletons in the closet in that capacity. But like I said, until he took that shot and killed Tavio, I was not expecting that. I was kind of scared for Tavio because I was like, please don't let this turn out to be. Because obviously, like, the last person he called was Ed. So I was like, there's got to be something. Because, not Ed, sorry, was Amir. And he was outside of Ed's place. So it might be a thing of, like, it might be that Tavio, I don't know how he figured it out. Like, I don't know if like maybe it had something to do with that final conversation with Amir. Like something like tipped him off to be in a position for Ed to send that to Bobby to be like, yo, take care of this guy. But even Bobby's like, yo, like, you're supposed to take people who don't matter. Amir was loved by the community. So, but he's also like, right. He even calls himself like inevitable. Like, I know there was like the more recent reboot with the Alex. I've never seen the movie. It's the one with Tyler Perry and Matthew Fox. That's not to, like, because it kind of looks like Ryan Eggold's kind of got like a shaved head in that moment, even though it seemed like earlier he had blonde hair. Like, I don't know. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like the same character and like it's adapting the same story or not. That might be something completely unrelated, but just, I think he was kind of like a sociopathic sniper in that or something like that. So once again, I've never seen the movie. I don't even remember seeing like promotion and trailers for it. So, but yeah, just that was, like I said, that was a twist. Like I said, the Bobby of it, I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, my point was like with the Tavio thing really quickly is like him running, because I guess he knows that Ed is someone of note and worth, that it's like, well, we also know that Bobby is a former cop, so maybe he knew something on that level, like why he, I mean, to be fair, it's like he's scared because like, yo, I know you're gonna try and pin his murder on me. That's why I didn't volunteer the information that I was the last person to talk to him, because that would have put a target on my back, because who knows what he knew. Whatever he knew died with him. But I was already scared because I was like, please don't let this situation end, because like I know you didn't kill Amir, but like he took someone hostage, but they were able to talk him down. I'm like, good. I was still kind of nervous. I was like, I hope some cop doesn't get trigger happy, and technically one did, and one an ex-cop, that being Ed's Bobby, sorry. So very interesting developments on that front. And obviously the sad situation is Anderson wants to like label this as, she wants to spin this story because the community is pissed, because they're thinking like, right, this is a second black man that the police has killed, and now it's like, right, we need to like spin this and say like the reason why we were taking Tavio into custody is because he was responsible for killing Amir. She wants to kind of two birds, one stone type of thing. And it's just like, Alex isn't about that, because it's like the real killer's out here. That's how we really spin the story. Especially because it's like, right, you wanted me to make a promise to the community. I didn't make a promise to the community. I made a promise to Amir's mom that I find out the truth about what happened. So I keep not also talking about it. Ryan Eggold, the thing obviously I'm best knowing him from, who's playing Ed. I kept meaning to bring this up, but I was just like, right. The thing I'm best known for is Tom Keene in The Blacklist. I only saw part of like the first season, but I know like he was like the main character in New Amsterdam on NBC. So those are like the things like best known for. I'm trying to think, like, I feel like I have seen him outside of those, and I just can't remember what else. Either way. Another familiar face in this was, two people really. The actress who plays Alex's mom, I'm like, I know her from like, was it Meet the Browns? She was one of the older people that was living, because I know her and that dude get married eventually, which I saw that actor in something super recently, I think. I just don't remember what. The former military guy. But yeah, she was kind of like the woman that liked Brown for a bit, but then she eventually got married to the other dude that lived in that house. Because I kept being like, why do I recognize? I heard her voice. I really love that line she had with Alex when like John told her about. Well, we'll cover some more of the Alex stuff when we talk about like another overarching story in this episode. And going to be this season and series, but that line with his mom being like, yeah, if it wasn't John, I would have gotten it out of you anyway. And he's like, yeah, I just didn't want to worry you or whatever. I don't want more people thinking I'm crazy. She's like, baby, that just means that's just, you've got that many people in your life who love you. And I was like, ooh, hitting you with that mama wisdom. You were just like, oh yeah. I don't know what that line hit, where you're just like, oh, that's a good line. That's a good retort. You know, and it's just like, you can't refute that. That's just like one of those age-old wisdoms like that mom gives you, that you're just like, I just got to shut up and accept it because it's not but facts type of thing. So I just thought that was beautiful. Either way, circling back, like I said, before we really get into Alex's personal life, which just can tie back into it, is the whole situation with that obviously he's kind of dating someone. She knows he has kids, and I guess he's never talked about the whole Maria's death. Like, he doesn't really talk about that. So, because Elle doesn't know that, but she's an activist herself, so that puts him in a very interesting situation, him and John, where they're sitting down at a table, and the guy there, like, a lot of these people must be new people, like, it must have been like Elle invited them to this dinner, must have been the first time they've been there, because no one knew that both John and Alex are both cops. And that one guy is looking down upon them, and Alex is kind of like, all right, like, where exactly do you live? Oh, you live in a good part of town. It's like, a rich upscale town. I'm like, how many of our people live there? He's like, you see, me and John, we grew up here, and we stayed here to be a part of our community, And he's trying to say, like, and then the guy's retort was like, oh, you think just because I'm not there that means I care less about my community, And he keeps going on and on about Alex, saying about his position, like how much of it, like kind of calling him a traitor, the massive racist C word. He doesn't call him that, but you're dancing around using that term, that, an Uncle T type of, those terms. to kind of say like, oh, you're tap dancing for the white folks type of situation. And then Alex is like, oh, the hypothetical of like, you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and then basically he beats your ass. And he's like, oh, here you go. Is that how you handle everything? You retort to violence? Because he also tried to throw it at Alex of like, right, you might be about your community, but say like a peaceful protest happens and your boss tells you to shut it down. You don't want to, but you know, what are you going to do when it comes to that activist? This also happening at the same time of Amir's death. He doesn't know that Alex is the one investigating it, but still. And just the whole thing pissed Alex off, and just you caught him at the wrong time of everything he's going through with this episode, and then you chastising him and making it seem like he doesn't care. Like you're questioning a lot of stuff about him, and so he popped off. So, and like I said, he ends up having to confess to Ellie, and I thought that was beautiful, tying it all in with the title of the episode, Hero Complex. He was like, yeah, from a young age, I was always the type of person that fought bullies. He's like, hell, I even almost got kicked out of the academy when I was a cadet. He's just like, I've always had to kind of, that part of me, there's some part of me that always kind of wanted to be the hero. It's like, yeah, two different psychologists have kind of like diagnosed me with a hero complex. He's like, that's a piece of me, and it's followed me in every aspect of my life. And when the time came to protect the people I care about, the person I cared about most in this world, I wasn't there for her. I couldn't be there for her. And Ellie trying to say like, hey, like it's not your fault. He's like, no, it is. It is. I can't blame myself, and I do. And that's just, there's no fixing me. And it's like her saying like, right, you have to find a way through this, which is something John was trying to tell him too. But like John was his friend that kind of reported him to Messi, but he got suspended for like 6 months because of it. But that's also because like John says later on, is like, yo, you literally put your gun to an innocent person who's going to pull the trigger. He's like, I didn't pull the trigger. And John's like, yeah, but what if I wasn't there? There's a good chance you would have. It's like, bro, like, I know you're upset about Maria, and it's like, you have every right to be, man. Your entire world was shattered and turned upside down, but it's like, you got to deal with this, and you have not been dealing with it properly. I don't know if that has to deal with why he was taking, he was taking a leave of absence. Like, I don't think we have clarification on what that was about. I don't know if we're entering anniversary territory for his wife's death. Like, that probably also what those flowers were meant to be about. But either way, John just like, I've seen firsthand how you spiral, and I don't want to see you go through that, buddy. He's like, yeah, I just wanted you to kind of take a beat back. I didn't know Messi was going to suspend, but he's like, you knew something was going to happen. It's like, yo, you're like my best friend, and you're my partner. You're like, we're good, we're tight, we're friends, but you basically betrayed me. So that kind of comes with its own complications. But yeah, tying this all in, there's a whole situation where someone broke into his house. And when they broke into his house, I was like, am I being crazy? I was like, that looks like that's a woman's figure. That doesn't look like a male figure. But I was like, I could be mistaken. But I was like, it kind of, especially like the pants, those look like those were like the way they were hugging the body. I was like, that looked like a female's, like I said, proportions and stuff. But I was like, maybe I'm mistaken. Turns out, yes, I was right. It is. The killer was a woman. But like even going into her house, being so creepy, it was like, luckily, Janelle didn't open the closet, obviously, when the killer was still inside, took a family photo. It was specifically a photo with just Maria and the kids. I think that's very important detail. It's not a photo, because I guess it's a photo that wouldn't be missed because it's amongst others, but also just the fact that you specifically chose one that didn't have Alex in it, I think kind of speaks volumes, and I think that's kind of interesting. But either way, I didn't realize at the time, like I saw them putting the scarf back on the hanger, and I was like, I figured that will probably mean something. Because I didn't realize the killer had brought it with them. I thought they found it somewhere else in the closet and then put it up, and I figured, oh, Alex might think that's weird. I had no idea that. I was like, I thought that was interesting. Didn't even cross my mind that, right, it's the exact same one that Maria had when she died. And so when her son, because he got in trouble at school, but it's because you're not supposed to wear something of that color and stuff like that. Schools have their dress codes and stuff, whatever it may be. I've talked about it before. Like, eventually my high school got to the point where you couldn't wear anything with skulls on it. I think so. You couldn't wear, I think shirts might have been fine, because at the time I had a black t-shirt with a whole bunch of colored skulls on it. But I think it was specifically, no skull belt buckles. I could be making that up, but I could have sworn it was something like that. But either way, tangents and all that aside. So like I said, schools have their staying, but Alex recognizes the scarf immediately, and he has John take it to someone to like examine it, which they ultimately do find out that it is Maria's, but there was also a hair found on it, a blonde hair. But that blonde hair wasn't just on it, didn't get just put there. It's like, no, it was literally threaded into it, so it was meant to be found. So I was like, damn, that's massively psychopathic to do that. It's like, right, doing all these things just to get Alex's attention, to kind of taunt him and everything. So I mean, especially literally announcing yourself, being like, yo, we'll see each other soon enough, by oh god, what was I thinking? Oh yeah, by like calling him and leaving the flowers. Specifically waited till the flowers got there and then called him afterwards to be like, yo, do you want to know your wife's final words? Because the biggest question has been who killed her, but also why. I wonder, did she know the killer? Like, is that why they chose to do what they did? Like, have they killed other people? And you know, we don't know if this is a serial killer situation or what. Like, what was the motive behind it? It's like, once again, trying to understand. I mean, I guess maybe that's, now that I'm sitting here thinking about, because I brought up the whole Ed situation of we know him and Bobby, so I guess that's kind of like meant to be the rub of it all, where it's like hey, I mean, we've heard the Maria's killer's voice, but the whole thing of like, you kind of have your cake and you get to eat it too, because it's like you have both versions of it, where it's like, hey, here's the killers that we will let you see and know from the very beginning, but here's a killer you won't get to see or know who they are until like maybe partway through the season, maybe the end of the season. Like I said, it depends on how overarching the Maria case thing is going to be. It might be like just as much overarching, just like the Amir case, or not less this ends up being a segmented thing of like the Amir and Tavio thing is like a couple episodes, because it is 8 episodes, so it's either going to be the entire season, or maybe it's going to be like every couple episodes is a new arc type of thing, new case, maybe not. It feels like that's going to be an entire season arc, but like I said, I avoided the trailer, even the seasonal trailer that played after the first episode. I didn't watch it, so like I don't know like the story structure in that regard. For certain is what I'm saying. So one last thing to kind of end it off on not so much of a downer, was the whole I was surprised seeing Alana Tall in this. I was like, hey, I was trying to remember. I could have sworn there was something in the more recent years I'd seen her. And obviously the thing I've been knowing her for is like Supernatural and what was it? Oh, was it, I believe, Burn Notice? Yeah, Burn Notice. So yeah, those are like some things like I best know her from, but I was trying to remember, like I could have sworn there was like something in the more recent years I'd seen her in, I just can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Either way, her playing Kayla, which it seems like Kayla has FBI connections because she's trying to bring Alex into the fold, but he's like, yeah, he's gotten some like, what's the term I'm looking for? Some people reaching out to him from the private sector and stuff like that, because they heard that he was going to try and take time off. So they have a little bit of a flirty relationship, but I guess it's like that's just them playing coy. Nothing will probably happen. I mean, obviously he's with Elle right now, so I don't see that happening, but I don't know. It might just be professional flirting in the regards of like nothing's ever going to happen between us, or maybe something did happen in the past, but whatever the case may be. But immediately my brain's like, well, you don't think she's the killer. It's like, I don't think it sounded like her voice, because Alex would recognize it, because it didn't sound like, it wasn't a modulation or anything. So it's someone he definitely doesn't know. It might be a thing of it's someone, he might end up finding out it's someone he met years ago, but it's been so long he just might not remember the voice, because they could have had a single interaction and it just never clicked in his head. So I don't know. Some very, very interesting developments. Like I said, a great start to the series. I do apologize for running my mouth off as long as I did. Did not mean for this to run as long as I did. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into the rest of the season, see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.